A very warm welcome to each and every one. This is Reflections, our devotional Bible study. We're presently in a series called I Love to Tell the Story. We're looking at some of the parables and stories Jesus told, earthly stories with a heavenly meaning. If you have a Bible, I'd like to turn to Matthew 25. Begin with verse 14. We'll be looking at another one of the great stories of Jesus. Let's begin with that great hymn, I Love to Tell the Story, in honor of the theme and these stories Jesus told. I love to tell the story of unseen things above, of Jesus and his glory, of Jesus and his love. I love to tell the story because I know it's true. Satisfies my longing as nothing else would do. I love to tell the story, will be my theme and glory, to tell the old story of Jesus and his love. I love to tell the story, 'tis pleasant to repeat what seems each time I tell it more wonderfully sweet. Love to tell the story, for some have never heard message of salvation, God's own holy word. I love to tell the story, will be my theme and glory, to tell that old story of Jesus and his love. I love to tell the story for those who know it best, seem hungering and thirsting to hear it like the rest. And when in scenes of glory I sing the new song, will be the old story that I have loved so long. I love to tell the story, will be my theme and glory, to tell the old story of Jesus and his love. Yes, the story of Jesus and his love. Well, hopefully you have your Bible with you today. We're in Matthew 25, and we're beginning with verse 14. It's called the parable of the talents. Again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents of money, another 2, another 1, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received the 5 talents went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 more. So also the one with the 2 talents gained 2 more. But the man who received the 1 talent went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received the 5 talents brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 talents. See, I've gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I'll put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. The man with the 2 talents also came. Master, you entrusted me with 2 talents. See, I have gained 2 more. The master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Then the man who had received the 1 talent said, Master, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you've not sown and gathering where have scattered seed. I was afraid and went out and hid your talent in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you know I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well then, You should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. Take the talent from him and give it to the one who has 10. For everyone who has will be given more, he will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken from him. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. There was a man and woman standing at the altar waiting to get married. The bride looks at her prospective groom and sees a set of golf clubs standing next to him. The bride said, "What on earth are you doing with those golf clubs?" The groom said, "This won't take all afternoon, will it? Not a good way to treat your wife or get the married off on not a good foot." But Jesus has a question for us today. How are you treating God's blessings? From the story, we realize we own nothing. Again, it said it'll be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and it trusted his property to them. So this owner goes on a little trip. The servants were the possessors, but not the owners of the property. Now, some can be like a family living in the home in West Palm Beach, Florida, back in 1989. They told a film crew it was okay to use the front lawn as a set for an episode of B.L. Stryker, a TV show starring Burt Reynolds. They knew cars would be crashing in front of the house. One problem, the family didn't own the house. They were tenants. When the owner found out when they were rolling cars all around the yard, he wasn't very happy. The tenants assumed because they lived in the house, they owned it. Everything we have has been given to us. It's not really ours anyway. The Psalm 24 verse 1 says, "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it." Not just a few things, not some things, but everything. We don't own anything. We get to borrow it. We may use it by God's grace. So that's why we must invest the blessings God gives us. So he gave various talents to individuals. One had 5, another 2, another 1. It said each according to their ability. Now, this parable has been confusing to people because of the word talents. We use the word talent, which means ability. They have a talent to sing, a talent to paint, a talent to play an instrument. One of America's Got Talent is very popular, and you see all kinds of talented individuals. Well, here, talent refers to a very large sum of money, and its value varied if it was copper, silver, or gold. Now, it would probably take an ordinary laborer almost 20 years to earn one talent. To put this into our economy, using a minimal hourly wage, probably be around $300,000. So the master gave the first servant 5 talents. That's roughly $1.5 million or so. 2 talents is around $600,000, and a talent, $300,000. Again, that's still a lot of cash. God gives to us out of his abundance to us. Notice each received according to their ability. Our responsibility is tied to our ability. That's very interesting. We're not to complain if someone has more than, but make the most of what we've been given. And so those who received the 5 talents and 2 talents doubled what they received. The third takes a different approach. He went off and buried his blessing. A couple was renovating their kitchen in England, and when they dug up the kitchen back in 2019, you know what they found? English gold coins from the early 17th century, 1610-ish, 264 gold coins, sold for $842,000. Again, the practice of hiding valuables in those days was quite common. It was one of the safest and least profitable ways of protecting possessions. So the issue was not that he has nothing, but that he did nothing. Everything we have and are comprised of talents entrusted to us by God. It's our abilities and time and our the wealth he gives to us, our relationships, most importantly, our salvation and redemption in Jesus Christ. We're bought with the price. So in short, our very lives. And let's also not neglect the ability to laugh. You see, the point is, we have been blessed. I like what Groucho Marx said, if you find it hard to laugh at yourself, I'd be happy to do it for you. You know, money can't buy happiness, but it certainly lets you choose your own form of misery. You know, one of my favorite scriptures, Proverbs 17:22, a cheerful heart is good medicine, a crushed spirit dries up the bones. There was a travel agent who said, I can get you 3 days and 2 nights in Rome for $100. The customer said, well, why so cheap? Well, the agent said the days are July 11th to 13th, and the night are July 21 to 22. Two elderly lady friends since high school got together during the week to play cards. They're playing gin rummy. Oh, please don't get mad. I can't remember your name. Please tell me. Her friend stared at her for at least 3 minutes and said, how soon do you need to know? You know, children laugh 300 to 400 times a day. Adults, maybe 15 times a day. Ever thought about the blessing laughter has on our bodies? It's interesting that laughter aids digestion, lowers blood pressure, reduces stress, increases muscle flexion, boosts the immune system. Now you know why this particular chaplain, that would be me, loves to share heavenly humor so much. Let me just say for a moment, thank you for the investment you have made and are making into the things of God. There's no greater gift than God's amazing grace that says you and I are a loved and forgiven child of God. That's why Jesus went to the cross, shed his blood, rose victoriously, conquered sin, death, and hell for us. And from that foundation, on Jesus, the solid rock, we have the opportunity to live out that grace in our lives. Then to realize the day of accountability is coming. It says, after a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. Paul said in Romans 14, verse 12, so then each of you will give an account of himself to God. Now, none of us want to be audited by the IRS, but we'll all be audited by the Almighty, holy, living God. We'll have to give an account for how we've used what we've been given. There was a young Bible college student witnessing in Atlanta, Georgia. There's an elderly gentleman sitting in his chair on the front porch. The student said, sir, are you a Christian? No, I'm a Smith. Christians live 2 doors down. The student said, no, I mean, are you lost? No, sonny, I'm not lost. I've lived here for 25 years. The student said, but are you ready for the judgment day? The man replied, well, when's it going to be? The student said, it could be today or tomorrow. The man then said, don't tell my wife. She'll want to go both days. I don't think anybody will want to be accountable for the final judgment 2 days in a row, but God invested something in you and me, and one day he's coming back to claim it. No greater possession that Christ in us, the hope of glory. Ultimately, one day we'll have a glorified body in the presence of Jesus Christ, and there'll be no more death, mourning, crying, or pain. No more judgment days. We'll have been judged righteous by Jesus Christ. That's why justified means just as if we've never sinned. That's why we're the loved forgiven people of God. And another powerful truth is God engraves us on the palm of his hand. His name, our name, is written on the palm of his hand. And if that's not value, I don't know what is. That's why we're his beloved children of God. Yes, we'll one day give an account to God, but he will judge us righteous. Then, we learn that our view of God determines our future. The men were excited for those who doubled their investment. They said, "See, I have gained." That means behold or look. They were excited to show the master what they had done. Of course, the owners thrilled. "Oh, well done, good and faithful servants. You've been faithful with those few things. I'll put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness." So we see there's affirmation. "Great job. Well done. I appreciate your good work and your faithfulness." There's promotion. "I'm going to give you even more responsibility and opportunity for growth." There's celebration. "You made me very happy. Let's celebrate together." And then there's that "well done," which literally means excellent, wonderful. And the reason they're called good, because they had the right view of the master. Good and faithful servants. I can picture the smile on Jesus' face when he says, "Come and share your master's happiness." Yes, they knew they wanted to honor and please and do for God. We want to do for God because of what he's done for us, given the gift of his amazing grace. But, the one-talent individual said, "Oh, I knew you were a hard man." Notice the first words out of his mouth are about himself. "I knew." Literally, "I always knew." See, the other two kept their focus on the master. "You entrusted me." The third one had the wrong view of the master. His mind was made up before he received his talent. He looked at the master as someone who was hard and harsh instead of loving and gracious. What we think about God is the most important thing about us. See, if we think of God as hard and just, that's how we'll view him. But the other view is a God who's good and gracious, wants to bless us. And if we blame God and see him as hard and harsh, we end up bearing the blessings God has blessed us with. It binds us up rather than frees us. So a wrong view of God literally leads to fear. That's why the man said, "Oh, I was afraid and hid your talent in the ground." His fear paralyzed him, and so he decided to play it safe. And what does he accomplish? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But the right view of God leads to faith. Fear's antidote is becoming more and more aware of God's character and his nature. God, you are a God of grace. God, you are faithful. So the first two focused on the master's character and stepped out in faith. They were determined to make a profit. The third was determined not to take a loss. The first two were willing to take risks. The third played it safe. The first two received the gifts. The third refused the gift. The first two viewed the money as an opportunity. The third a problem. The first two allowed the master's gift to change their lives. The third refused to be changed. The first two invested. The other wasted. The first two saw a blessing. The last third saw a burden. Martha Berry was a lady with the vision to help children. She began a school for poor children. She had no books, building, money, but she took her dream to Henry Ford for a donation. Mr. Ford reached into his pocket and gave Martha Berry dime. Now, most people would be insulted. A multimillionaire, and all he could give was a dime. But you know what she did with that dime? Martha bought a packet of seeds. She planted a garden, raised a crop, sold it, and bought more seeds. Well, after several harvests, she had enough money to purchase an old building for the children. She returned to Mr. Ford and said, "Look what your dime has done." He was so impressed, he donated $1 million. See, that's the difference in seeing a God of blessing, a God of grace, a God of mercy, versus a stingy, stringent, Scrooge-like God. Our view of God really is the most important thing about us. And then we either use it or lose it. So he said, "You wicked, lazy servant, take the talent and give it to the one who has 10. Everyone who has will be given more and have abundance. Whoever does not have, even what he has, will be taken from them." Interesting, the word wicked here means evil, hurtful, or malicious. Really, the master is saying, you're lying in your heart. Really, you're selfish, you're lazy, and I see right through you. How many would agree with me? Those are pretty strong words. God will judge not merely for doing wrong, but for not doing right. Of course, we all have an element of lazy in us. It reminds us of our sinful nature. But on the other hand, Jesus paid the sin debt. He became sin on that cross by shedding his blood. He took our place. Yes, that's why we're aware of who we are in Christ, a loved child of God. Yes, we can blow it. Yes, we still sin, but it doesn't change how God views us as a loved and forgiven child of God. There was a young African-American mother born without arms and legs. The Department of Public Health charged she was incapable of caring for her 5-month-old daughter. Well, the mother surprised everyone by proving she was very competent. Before their eyes, she undressed and dressed the baby by using her lips and tongue. The judge, so impressed, not only awarded custody of the baby, but said, "I commend you very much for your courage, your spirit, your ingenuity. You have proven that physical endowments are only a part of the spectrum of resources human beings possess." You see, this young mother was a good steward of her wounds. She did not dwell on what she did not have. She chose to use the utmost what God had given to her. That's why, as God has blessed us, we use those blessings or fail to use them. And then ultimately, we lose what God has blessed us with. What wounds have you received that can be a blessing to others? If we lost a loved one, then we've got the grace of God to be a blessing to others who've lost a loved one, or if you lost a spouse or a child. So the many ways we've been wounded are the ways God can use for us to be a blessing to those around us. When Luciano Pavarotti was a boy, his father, a baker, introduced him to the wonders of song. He urged him to work very hard and develop his voice. Arrigo Pola, professional tenor in his hometown of Modena, that's Italy, took him as a pupil. He enrolled in a teacher's college. On graduating, he said, "Dad, should I be a teacher or a singer?" And the father said, "If you try to sit on 2 chairs, you will fall between them. For life, you must choose one chair." He chose one. After 7 years of study, he made his first professional appearance. It took another 7 to reach the Metropolitan Opera. God has given us a chair as well. Use the blessings God has given us, the wounds too. Because one day, because of who Christ is in us, he could say to us as well, "Well done, good and faithful child of mine. Behold, because of my grace, behold, you'll be in my presence, will have a glorified body to be with Jesus Christ." Well, I can't think of a better hymn to close with than Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like a me. I once was lost, but now am found. I was blind, but now I see. The Lord has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. His grace has brought me safe thus far. His grace will lead me home. Yes, when this flesh and heart shall fail, and mortal life shall cease, amazing grace shall then prevail in heaven's joy and peace. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we'd first begun. His grace has brought me safe thus far. His grace will lead me home. Well, may the abundance of God's grace and his peace, all the storehouses and treasures of heaven, his amazing blessings day by day, enrich your life, your families, the staff and other residents around us, and just in every way, just know you're a loved child of God. The best is coming. May that amazing grace put a smile and joy in your heart this day till we meet again.